I think we're live. This is Diana from An Ageless Life. Today, I want to talk about stress. And I know it's like, oh my God, I've heard so much about stress. It's bad for me, on and on and on, and how I need to avoid it. And life is full of stress. And what do I do with it? So, this is what I'm going to talk about today. What is a good kind of stress for you, your body, and for aging? And what is a bad kind of stress, i.e., stress that actually ages you more? And believe it or not, there is a difference between the two. So I went to, and this became really obvious the other day. I went to an event that was a storytelling event, and people put their name in a hat, and names were drawn out. They went up on stage, and they have 5 minutes to tell a story about nature. And what I found really interesting is some of the people were extremely experienced. And they went up there, you could tell there was a little bit of tension or stress associated with it because they had like body movements where they would pull on their shirt, or they would switch weight from foot to foot, or saying, those kinds of things. But the thing that was universal with all of them, and I'll use the example of the guy who had never done it before and it was his first time. You could tell in the beginning he was nervous, but as he got through it, he became less nervous. And at the end, he had a huge smile on his face. He was really excited and felt a great sense of accomplishment. So if we look at what happened with him, and this is true of the other 9 people that were there as well, is that when they started to go on and when they were doing their presentation, their stress was like this. It was over and then it went down like this. And you could actually see a euphoria of sorts that happened when it was finished. The way that they had a special stride in the way that they walked off stage, but every single one of them, you could see the release of tension in their body. So this is what I would categorize as a good stress. You have a situation, it's something that you need to do or want to do. You build up all of the stress associated with it. Your adrenaline's rushing a little bit. Your brain is thinking in a different way. It happens, you release the stress, and all of those stress hormones go whoomp, they fall. Another example of this is working out. So when you do working out, you are stressing your body. The muscles become stressed. They break down and they build new fibers within each other, and those fibers create a new, stronger muscle tissue. Now, again, you can go too far with it, but typically that's what happens. So that is another example of how stress is really good for our bodies. Third example that I will use is intermittent fasting. And even if you don't do intermittent fasting, having long periods of time when you don't eat, for example, at night when you sleep. So, what happens with the body is that it goes through and really starts to look at what do I need? What don't I need? And it has its own recycling program. And with this recycling program, it throws out the stuff that you don't need anymore. It keeps the stuff that it can reuse. And by reusing those things, it basically turns on your ability for your body to rebuild those structures that are associated with longevity and with, you can call it pro-aging, you can call it anti-aging, whatever it is that you want to call it. So you can rebuild your body. Your body understands and knows what to do with those building blocks and builds a better skin, better as far as muscle tissue. It does things in the brain as far as rewiring, all of those definite processes that we really, really need to have working appropriately in order to age well. So now this is kind of that area we understand good stress. And so you had the instance of one, you're doing an activity that's stressful, but something that you really want to do, and you do it and it's over and your stress level drops. Two is it can be physical, as in working out or other kinds of things, in which, again, you have the activity and then you stop. And then the third one that I talked about was, for example, like intermittent fasting, something that creates a little bit of stress for the body, not too much, because we're not talking about dropping the calories down to 500 or 600 a day. We're just talking about having periods of time in which you go without food that teaches and trains your body how to reuse things. So that stress teaches your body what it needs to do. So those are all in the category of things that are really good for your body. And as a pharmacist, I have studied tons and tons about this, and also about the other side of it. And the other side of it is what happens when we have long periods of stress with no release. And you see it a lot in people that have certain kinds of health conditions. It can be because of a work environment. It can be because of what's going on in your home life, uh, any one of those scenarios. So let's talk about those. When we have stress that is ongoing and it never lets up, what happens is all of the neurotransmitters or hormones, you can call them for lack of a better term, in your body raise up. That's the epinephrine, the cortisol, all of those. Those all create inflammation. And you can think of it as the body's on high alert. It's saying, hey, we're going to need to run from the tiger. We don't know where the tiger is. We know the tiger can come and get us at any minute. So we got to be ready all the time. It's very stressful for the body. Doesn't have time to do the recycling that it needs to, or the rebuilding, or any of those kinds of things. And oh, by the way, when we're in this state of having all of these hormones, especially cortisol, it changes the way that our body uses food, because the body's saying, hey, we may not get to eat because we're in constant vigilance about this tiger, i.e. stress in our job and our personal lives, whatever it might be. So there's accumulation of fat around, especially around the belly. And you'll see people that are in super high stress jobs that have no release. A lot of times they'll have muscle wasting. In other words, the muscles in their arms and other places look like they've wasted away, or they're no tone, but they also have a belly. And that's because the body is doing its thing to insulate that area and basically protect it, because there's no bones around there. And so it adds body fat in order to be able to protect it. And you see this in animals. Animals have a natural structure. So I have two cats, and they have developed that little belly thing that kind of, and it's loose skin. In their case, that loose skin is there, so if something comes along and grabs them in that section, then it will get that and not their internal organs. And it's kind of the same way with stress that we have as humans, stress that doesn't ever get released. Now, there's some other hormones and those kinds of things, especially for women when they get, in their 40s or so, that happen. But today, our focus is stress. So knowing and understanding and being able to recognize the difference between the two, and then being able to set into motion things that will decrease that overall high level of stress that we have that's really hard on our bodies. And there are simple techniques that you can use, breathing techniques, meditation, going for walks in nature, all of those work. And they work really, really well. So think about the next time you're under stress and what it is that you're doing, and think about the impact it has on your body and your mental state. Because when you're that stressed, your memory's not as good either. And I can tell you from my perspective as a healthcare practitioner that stress is one of the number one causes for lots of other conditions, diseases, and really makes a difference. So if you have a question, or if you want to know something else that you can do to help alleviate your stress, pop it into the message or in down below, and I will create another live video that talks about what it is that you can do. And remember, I also have Supplement Saturdays. So Saturdays at 10 o'clock, there is, 9 a.m. Central Time. I do a special series on supplements because people have tons of questions about them. So that's it for today, and I'll see you next time. Bye bye.